time from a session to another one, and our program will not functioning. And I'm inviting all my colleagues who are staying in the doors of the hall to enter in, to not stay with open doors. Please, do it. You have a lot of chairs here. Don't stay in the doors. Thank you. It's a great honor for me to introduce today Professor Pierre Hoffmeyer. It's Professor Emeritus, University of Geneva, President of the Swiss Foundation for Innovation and Training in Surgery, and Editor-in-Chief in Effort Open Reviews, past President, and I can say a lot of other long list about Professor Hoffmeyer. I'm inviting to directly say his speech because it's discussion about education also. It's the principal theme for our meetings in our conference today. Please, Professor Hoffmeyer. It's a honorary member of our university from Bucharest, Carol Davila University. It is known by all the community from our university. Please, Professor Hoffmeyer, thank you for coming.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Professor Stoica and the Sorot for this wonderful invitation to this beautiful city of Brasov, which we visited yesterday and found a fantastically beautiful place. My disclosures, I want to start off with this video. So some professions have responsibilities, like airplane pilots. And airplane pilots, they work a lot on simulation. And the same applies to our specialties. So we decided to create a foundation in Geneva for education, for interventional education, for surgery, but for all the specialties that operate. And the idea is to do training, research, and innovation, so as to improve surgical intervention, research, and serve as an innovation platform. We train operating room professionals in the idea of diminishing risks to patients. We have training sessions of all levels, and basic, advanced, and expert. Spine surgery for Professor Mineiro is one of the most important topics, but we do practically every specialty. We have quite a large activity now, and our residents have done really well at the Swiss exam. We host events for training. We try to get people as comfortably installed as possible. And we also have a complete ecosystem, electronic ecosystem. Surgery of any kind performed in our center. And our professors are the teachers of the hospital. We have hands-on workshops, synthetic models, organic parts, anatomical models, take-home suture kits, access to simulators, broad pedagogical wealth, including new and innovative tools, surgical simulators of all sorts. Virtual reality is something that we're building right now. And with COVID, we were able to do less meetings, but more e-learning modules, and perfect our e-learning library, customized courses of all sorts for every specialty. We have a video studio that allows us research projects. This is a microsurgery project that comes from watchmaking, and watchmaking is almost like microsurgery, so we try to transmit that to our students. MedTechs also use our center. And new instruments are used. So we've become a research laboratory, a MedTech Innovation Validation Center, and a preparation and planning center for complex interventions. Like if you're doing a really tough operation the next day, you can come to this FITS and practice on either cadaveric or simulated anatomical models. Okay, so surgical education and new tendencies, we've come a long way from the surgery of the skull 5,000 years ago to what's come up today with germ theory and the anesthesiology and so on and so forth. And from orthopedics, we evolved into orthopedic surgery with anesthesiology, radiology, transfusion, asepsis, implants, computers, robotics, and now artificial intelligence. The teaching tools of the past were the anatomic models, the wax reconstructions, the instruments and knowledge of education of the 17th and 18th century. And then new teaching tools came in those times, how to deliver babies. Midwives used, but we have come a long, long way. And from this to this. And so how are we going to manage all this? Now, how have we been transmitting knowledge over the years? Well, like the roving companionships, like the Hamburg carpenters, they went from one teacher to the next, and finally that's how they learned their trade. And then, of course, Halstead, see one, do one, teach one. That was the paradigm that we were brought up, our generation was brought up with. But times have changed. And we have done practical exercises. The first ones were done in Davos at the AO courses. And today we face a lot of challenges. We face challenges like diversity, limitation of working hours, part-time, aging, ambulatory, patient safety, costs, medical legal situation, which we just talked about, professionalization of teachers, and the information age. So diversity in our civilizations, in our hospitals is changing very, very much. In the 1960s, it was all men. In 2021, it's almost all women. So things have changed. In orthopedics, it's still a bit of a problem, so we still have a lot of effort to do. The limitation of work hours. Residents cannot work like we worked 120 hours a week. They work now 40 hours, and they have 5 hours of obligatory teaching. So that, of course, puts a constraint in our way of functioning. Part-time work is also coming. Many people work an 80% schedule. They want time with family, and it's becoming difficult. The workforce is aging. In Switzerland, you can see that the medical doctors, whether men or women, by the way, are getting older and older, although we do have younger women and older men in our profession, so the future. Ambulatory surgery, you don't learn surgery the same way when you do ambulatory patients as when you do inpatients, and outpatients is growing. Politicians want us to operate everybody on an outpatient basis. Patient safety is a big issue now. Number one issue, if you have a problem, patient safety. The cost of health care is on the rise in every single one of our countries. I think just as in Switzerland, in Romania, I think everywhere, costs are just going up, and people are starting to say, well, how much are we going to spend on our health care? If you look at the predictions for total shoulders, for total hips and total knees, you can see that the costs are on the rise everywhere. Medical legal claims are also exploding. We just had a nice talk about medical legal problems in spinal surgery, and that is really something that is coming and that we have to be careful of. Professionalization. We don't want amateur teachers anymore. And I think George's course yesterday, George Minero's course on EBOT, is just exactly the point. If you want to be a teacher today, you need to manage your clinical skills, arthroplasties, trauma, pediatrics, whatever. You have to be the best. But you also have to be a manager. And you have to negotiate, and you have to business plan, and you have to have the financial skills and leadership and appraisal and all this stuff. And then you need to be a researcher, so you need research skills, applying for grants, literature review. And then you need teaching skills, small group teaching, mentoring skills, and appraising students. And now the robots, and we just had a series of presentations of robots that are coming in. You know, the video surgeon. We are now playing video games in the operating room. Our generation doesn't understand that, but the one that's coming up does. And they will be working more and more with that. And then artificial intelligence. What's artificial intelligence? Well, artificial intelligence is the opposite of natural stupidity. So we will see if artificial intelligence really does a big job in surgery. Now, I have to talk to you about the advent of neuroscience in education. When you learn something, what works in your brain is the prefrontal cortex, right here in front. And Professor Izzetoglu works in the US, in Pennsylvania, and he has studied brain activation during skill acquisition via robot-assisted surgery training. And this is important for all our teaching activities, is to understand how the brain works. So what they did is they put a sort of a scanner or something in front of the forebrain, in front of your forehead, and it picks up functional near-infrared spectroscopy. So it can see what part of your brain is working and how much it's working. Now, when you're learning an easy task, there is a lot of oxygen consumption in your prefrontal cortex. As you practice, the oxygen consumption diminishes, and you do the task in an easier way. It's like driving. When you're learning how to drive, you're completely concentrated on your driving. You're sitting there and you're worried about everything. As you get on, you can start to drive almost automatically, in the sense that you drive naturally, and almost too naturally. You pick up your phone and you do things while you're driving, which you probably shouldn't be doing. But that proves that your brain has actually mastered the driving component and is now free to do other things. For surgery, it also applies. If you're doing an operation and your prefrontal cortex is completely into that operation, using up a lot of blood, if an emergency comes up, you do not have enough brain power to deal with the emergency. So what you need to do is practice and practice and practice so that your operation becomes almost automatic in a certain sense. And if something comes up, you have enough reserve to actually master the complication that you may be faced with. So easy tasks diminish prefrontal oxygen, hard task augmented, practice diminishes the prefrontal oxygen, and if you need to be able to have more oxygen if you are multitasking if an emergency comes up. Now, learners remember about 10% of what they read and about 90% of what they do. So it's very important in our teaching to incorporate the doing and not just the theory. We need to undertake a culture change from hierarchical to autonomous to competitive to individualistic to expert-centered. We need to go to collaborative, team-based, service-based, mutually accountable, and patient-centered. We also need, in our training, to have a culture change. It's not the number of years that you do. Now, all the curriculums are based on years. You know, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you get a diploma. That's not the way it should work. It should work on competency, and this is what we're striving for more and more. So we need tools to tackle these challenges. And the tools is, first of all, for orthopedics, a unified European orthopedic curriculum. And EFORT has been working on that. And I think everyone should get together so that we have one curriculum that fits all. There is no reason that in the East, in the West, in the North, and the South, people have different curriculums, different times, etc. The competencies must be the same for all of us. Then we have to have a curriculum where you have your specialization, your general education, and your basic clinical education should be, for all of our societies, about equivalent. And then we can assess the curriculum, and the EBOT exam is here to do that, and we should work so that the EBOT exam, or at least an EBOT type exam, is available to all of us, all our students. But we can also, the residents also assess the teaching centers. And for instance, this is the Swiss Institute for Education, and we assess our teaching centers. You can see there's one teaching center here on my left, which is a little bit under average. You have one which is above average, and we ask the residents to answer questions based on EBM, general appreciation, competency, etc., all these things. And you can see that center, which is on my right, the chief there is very EBM emphasis, so the residents are very EBM emphasis types. And but for the rest of the things, they're not all that great. But anyway, teaching centers must be assessed. So we've decided in Geneva, and I've just showed you the video, that doing is important. In surgery, the hands are led by the brain, but the brain is there to lead the hands. And so we decided to set up a foundation. It had to be a foundation because if you put a teaching center in a department like surgery department or like gynecology, the others will not come. You know, so you have to be open to everyone. And it's a public-private type of enterprise. And we were able to garner enough finances so as to be able to have the most modern equipment possible. And the idea is to improve care, diminish incidents, adapt new guidelines, and have a platform for innovation and training, like you saw. Our mission is the continuous medical education of all professionals. It's a platform for interactive exchange. It's funny how if you get a urologist and a neurosurgeon together, after 5 minutes, they will find common points. If you have the urologist and neurosurgeon in a silo, they will never speak to each other, and they will miss out on things. We're also doing research projects that are aimed at developing novel techniques. Our governance is essentially the professors in the hospital, and we have people from all over that come. It's located in this building, which is in the heart of the hospital. It's important that a training center, all you need to do is take the elevator to get there. If you need to take a bus, a train, and a taxi to get there, nobody will come. And so we have a complete ecosystem to be able to manage and drive all educational and research needs. They have their phone, just like the application we have here, which I find remarkable, by the way. It's a fantastic application. We have the same type of application in our system, where they can book an appointment, they can book a course, they can follow a course, they can go on an e-learning. Our numbers are good. We have over 500 training sessions a year, lots of room reservations. We have about 4,000 surgeons who come and go throughout. We have 45 learning modules, and we have registered online courses. So we have activities in all the specialties. We have hospital courses, external courses, and medical association courses. All of these courses have UEMS credits. We have pre-grad courses, and of course, sometimes we lease space to industry if they want to do something. To make the cadaveric work real, we are using a Vertenjo machine, which is a CEC machine, which makes blood flow into your cadaver. And depending on what you're operating on, it looks really real, like in the OR. You have blood flowing, you have to do what you need to do so that the patient survives. For research, we have a European partnership with the Neurosurgical Association of Europe. We have a microsurgical skill that is derived from, it's at the engineering school, but we do the medical part in our foundation. The idea is that if you're a watchmaker, it's very delicate to learn how to put together a watch. And a young watchmaker makes mistakes for years that an older watchmaker can tell them right away. Don't do that. So what we did is monitor the motions and then have that transmitted for microsurgery. And you can learn microsurgery much faster that way. We also have a fairly large project on biomechanics of the hip, which is going on now. Our e-learning library, 45 modules are published: maxillofacial surgery, orthopedics, neurosurgery, infectiology, anything you want. Here are our main partners, and you can see that we work with AO, with Effort, with EPOS, ENAS, and a lot of others. So thanks very much. This is our team. We have about 10 ETPs. And thank you very much again for the invitation to this beautiful city of Brasov.
Thank you, Professor, and I hope for the future to collaborate. I intend to open something like your center in my hospital, but very mini. Okay, by the way, we must go again to the spine. I invite the chairmen to continue the session. Please be in time. It's my message for chairmen. Have a nice spine session. Will be a long one,